Yo, Shortbox podcast. What am I doing? Shortbox Nation. Welcome back to the podcast. See what I'm saying?
Wow.
I need my script.
We're
This is
off
what Don't get my
Who put a question mark on the prompter?
line. All right. Shortbox Nation, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks for being here. If you're new to the show, welcome. This is the Shortbox Podcast, the comic book talk show that brings you the best conversations about comics and pop culture inspired by them. This is episode 403, and my name is Botter. I'm reporting to you live from Shortbox HQ here in, it's kind of gloomy today, gloomy Jacksonville, Florida. Still humid as hell, though. And in the studio with me, on mic number 2, is the special Edmund Danzart.
What's up?
What up, Ed? Making your first season, what are we, season 9? Season 9?
Oh,
season 9 appearance.
Is this a season premiere? Or
No, season premiere was 2 episodes ago with 401.
I have no
We're
idea.
a little late on that one.
I wasn't here. Was I here?
True, no, it was an interview episode. So no
My
fault to
season
you.
premiere.
Yeah, what?
My
Yeah.
debut.
Man, come on. Ed's season premiere.
Hey!
For whatever season number we're on.
Hey, guys.
Yeah, where you guys all show up at? Yeah. Ed's season 9 premiere. And on mic number 3, because, you know, Ed's season premiere is such a big deal. We got a special guest co-host with us. We got a good friend of the show at that, Chris Hackett from the Oblivion Bar podcast back on the pod.
Duval.
Oh, wow.
Not sure. I could have used a little work on that
Regional.
delivery.
Sorry, I tried. I'm from the Midwest, everybody. I can't. I don't have.
That's exactly. That's exactly how a Midwest.
It's a polite, nice, you know.
Duval.
Duval.
Nice to meet y'all.
Yeah. Duval, y'all. Hello, everyone.
Listeners, as you can tell, we're in a great mood. We're recording on Friday evening. So it's a celebratory vibe right now. Everyone's just finished a hard, work week. We popped a couple of drinks.
Yep.
Got what is that? We got some ranch waters. We got some mamitas. What you sipping on, Chris?
I'm drinking an Alani Nu Kim 8. This is the Kim Kardashian version of the Alani Nu. And I bet you're probably thinking, Chris, why the hell are you drinking a Kardashian Alani Nu? You're a 32-year-old white male in the Midwest. They taste good. I don't know. They just give me that little. They give me that little something that I need every time that I'm. I'll tell you right now, Alani Nu. If you're listening right now, and I know that you are, please reach out to us at the Oblivion Bar podcast because you've been the lifeblood of our show since 2021.
I'm gonna try this out. What's this called?
It's good. It's called Alani Nu. ALANINU.
So it's probably better than the gas station Bahama Mama I had before coming here.
Well, they market to the 22-year-old, influencer white chick that usually, like that's what their target audience is. But, it's for everybody. I like to believe that,
So.
So,
For the people.
Yeah. Alani Nu is for the people. That's right.
I was
Just
gonna
like
say,
Wu-Tang.
Oh, you saw the shirt? You saw the shirt?
right.
There we go. Got it at the concert this past weekend.
See the algorithms. I've been seeing the little kids with the Wu-Tang.
Because
Playing
Wu-Tang's
the
for the
Wu-Tang
children.
song. Have you seen
for the
that?
children.
Dude, Wu-Tang's for the children. That's
Oh,
why
so
you're
funny.
seeing so many of them.
They actually are playing the instruments. That's impressive.
Oh! Is your first time seeing this?
No, I just been seeing it on like the reaction, like going to my kid's party, and then the little kid starts rapping. It's awesome.
There is so many talented ass little kids that
It's crazy.
Just demoralize me. I'm sitting here talking about comic books on a podcast. This kid's playing, Cream with instruments. Really
Yeah, I was
well.
gonna say, have you seen these kids who can like create a song? They like do these like fast track song making now. Like they'll get into like a studio and they'll see how quickly they can make the beat for like Because I Got High by Old Dirty Bastard. Like they'll click. You just hear clicking, click, like dragging.
Oh,
and it'll be like,
wait a minute.
oh, 37 seconds, new
That's
world record,
Afro,
everybody.
man. We got
Or whatever. I'm sorry. Yeah.
There's integrity here, hip hop.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Afro
Again,
man's.
Yes.
from the Midwest. If it wasn't Brooks and Dunn, don't ask me.
I was going to blame it on this Kim Kardashian drink. Maybe he had too many of
Yeah,
these
that's
Kim
what it is.
Kardashian.
Yeah.
That's his one hit song, man. Give it to the guy. Come on, that's what he had. They just raided his house. Come on,
Oh shit.
And then he put out his second,
which is the same beat.
song.
It's just with different lyrics about the cops robbing,
Because I fuck with that song heavy. All right,
tearing his house apart.
listeners, as you can tell, we're in a good mood. All right, we're glad to be among friends. We're glad you're here joining us, and we got an easy mission today. Today we'll be recapping some recent comic news and announcements from this past month. So we're taking one last look at the month of September and all the different developments and the things that have happened in the comic industry before we, finally move into the spooky season. All right, we're looking at September and seeing all the different news. What, that wasn't a good spooky one? Are you over spooky season?
No, I didn't know we were doing.
We call
it
again. Spoopy season over at the Oblivion Bar.
Spoopy.
What is that supposed to mean?
That's
spooky?
Another like cute word for spooky that I don't understand.
Guys, it's the Kim-Aid. Sorry, it's the Kim-Aid.
I don't understand.
Ignore me. Keep going, Botter. I apologize.
Chris is in tune with it all, man. He's got all.
He's got his finger on the pulse.
Yes, that's
culture.
I keep up with the teeny boppers. What can I say? It's the algorithm on TikTok.
Oh man!
All right, but I'm sorry. We got a lot of things to talk about today. Take it away, John Stewart. What do we got?
We've got things to talk about.
Damn right. And if you're looking for a specific topic, I highly suggest you check out the timestamps listed in this episode's show notes. Or you'll also find a link to the video version of this podcast. So if you're someone that likes to watch your podcast as you listen to them, we got it on YouTube, and we got all of the topics in the show notes. So check it out. Now, before we take off into the main event and get to talking about the comic news and developments and all these headlines going on, let me take a quick minute to shout out all of my New York peeps, all right? Just specifically, all of our listeners in New York and our listeners planning to attend at New York Comic Con this year. Maybe I should have been more specific about that, because there's some people that are probably in New York right now. They're like, I do not fuck with New York Comic Con. It's too crazy. So to our listeners that are planning to attend
the tourists,
New York Comic, exactly. That's probably how they're acting. But to our listeners that are planning to attend New York Comic Con, I'd like to go ahead and make the formal announcement on the podcast that your boy is going to be at New York Comic Con.
Hey.
All right. I bucket list item. All right. And I mean this too. Like, going to New York Comic Con has been a bucket list item for me since, starting this podcast. Little did I know, all I had to do was actually just send an email or buy tickets. But I had a personal goal of like going as press.
It feels more daunting than that, though.
Yeah, that's the big one.
And Chris, I'm going to ask you what I need to expect from there. But I want to go ahead and give a shout out. I'm sorry. I want to go ahead and plug the panel that we're doing. Not only am I going to be at New York Comic Con with Drew and Blake, who you guys heard on the Heroes Con recap episode, but your boy also gets to do a panel. All right,
you spend all day on the phone anyhow.
I pressed it wrong.
As a longtime listener of the Short Box, I feel like that happens once an episode.
Look, you spent all day on the phone anyhow.
Smooth sailing.
Buy your tickets to New York Comic Con right now to catch me at the panel. No, we got a panel. It is called The Awesome Power of Comic Book Podcast and How You Can Start One Yourself. It's taking place the Saturday of the convention from 6 to 7 p.m. They gave us the late night spot, but all good. It's
midnight run at New York Comic Con.
I got to cut my teeth. I got to cut my teeth first. I get it. I'm going to take what I can, all right?
That's an all-star lineup too, right?
Yo, come on, man. We're talking about the power of podcasting in the comic book space. And not only am I going to be hosting it, but I've got Chris Hacker on the panel as well.
Hey, all right. I heard about this panel. This sounds pretty awesome.
Wow. Chris,
and I'll tell you what. So if I may, and if this is for the video watchers of this episode,
I didn't know you were going to do this exclusive.
One of the things that we're doing here for New York and for the panel specifically is that we commissioned Elliot Comic Art. Shout out to Elliot and his incredible talent. He recreated Silver Surfer number 4 from 1966 by the great John Buscema. And it's the Oblivion Bar. It's Aaron and I. I am the Silver Surfer. Aaron is Thor. And we have 20 of these. We're going to give these out at the panel.
That's cool.
Along with that, we have t-shirts coming with the same logo.
It's pretty sick.
We have normal stickers. And then again, if you're at the panel, you get the stickers whenever. If you see us at the con, Aaron or I, come say hi. We'll give you a sticker. Absolutely. If you want the holographic sticker, though, you have to come to the panel.
There we go.
This is the special one. There's only 20 of them. So. And Botter, while we're on the topic, if you don't mind, I don't mean to like.
It's not even my show, Ed. It's not my show. I'm here for Chris.
I'm sorry.
Take it away, Chris. I'm kicking my feet up today.
I just want to ask. Let's do a quick brainstorm while we're on the topic, if you don't mind.
Okay.
I would love to do something other than just like hearing our expertise on the medium of comics and podcasting. I want to do like a giveaway. What are your thoughts on doing something like that at the panel? Like something to incentivize people, even if they barely care about what we have to say about podcasting.
Yeah, just sit in a chair until we take the photo so it looks full. All right, that's what we need.
Exactly, that's all we want.
No, we
can tell the story.
We absolutely have to do a giveaway, and especially considering the lineup. All right, so not only is Chris, this is back to the listeners. Not only is Chris going to be there along with his co-host Aaron, we've also got Brad and Lisa Gullickson from the Comic Book Couples Counseling Podcast, who we had on the podcast I think earlier this year, and Troy Jeffrey Allen from Rexco Comics and Previews World is also on the panel as well. It's a pretty stacked panel of talented podcast hosts and comic lovers and whatnot. If I do say so myself, I'm really excited and proud about the panel that we're going to be throwing. I know it's going to be a good time. And come on, it's New York Comic Con, man. So
this is very exciting.
Chris, we absolutely have to do a giveaway. We got to figure out details for that. I know you've got plenty of cool stuff to give away. I'm gonna try to match. I'm gonna try to match that. I'm definitely gonna try to match. I think I'm gonna bring some Gotham City Limit exclusive comics. I got tons of short box merch, but I think we can even take it up a notch. Take it up a notch.
We have our friends at Omnibus and Whatnot both are bringing things to the panel to give away at the panel. So
I'm learning
and talking to Christian Ward 2 nights ago for the show, he'll be there. He's coming to the panel.
Son.
So yeah, it's going to be a big deal.
I'm calling it right now. The best panel at New York Comic Con is going to be the Awesome Power of Comic podcast and how you can start one. Saturday, 6 to 7 p.m. It's going to be a good time.
Nice.
But, Chris, I am curious, though. You know, as a first-time go, or, you know, tentatively, first-time goer to New York Comic Con, what can I expect? And I'm sure this could be an episode all on its own. So I'm putting you on the spot with a difficult challenge of trying to give me just a one piece of advice of what I should expect. How can I prepare best for one of the biggest comic conventions that takes place?
This is one of my favorite kind of discussions in the comic world, convention going in general. Is San Diego, of course, is known as this movies, and there's a little bit of comics anymore, but it's mostly about movies. New York is for your comic fan, and I think it's best shown in their artist alley. Again, San Diego has maybe 3 or 4 rows of maybe I'd say 40 to 50 artists. Artist Alley at New York Comic Con is 400 plus. I mean, you can go to the New York Comic Con website right now, and it is every walk of life on the East Coast and otherwise going to New York Comic Con. It's going to be really incredible. I will say, and I know this is maybe not the answer that you're looking for, there's really no way to prepare yourself for New York. You are just kind of enduring the entire time. It is sensory overload. You're going to have this giant cloud of FOMO over your head the entire time. But I think at the end of it, when you look back on your experience, and I hope that you have this, because I have this every single year. I've been to New York Comic Con 4 times. You're always happy with your experience because you are around like-minded folk. You're getting to meet creators that you wouldn't get to meet otherwise. And I'll say, just this is a personal thing for me. My favorite experiences from these conventions, but specifically New York, is after the convention, getting together with these people that you just spent time with at the convention, talking about comics, letting loose, going out for a drink or two, meeting creators at these different publisher parties. It's all, New York is just this incredible beast, and I'm so excited to hear, your experience at the end of it all, and obviously that's getting to hang out as well for the first time, you and I.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot of physical first meetings at this one, and I'm really looking forward to it. It sounds like everything I love about Heroes Con on steroids is how I'm taking it. A convention for the comic heads and comic lovers, but even larger. I've heard a lot of stories as far as it's 3 floors. You ain't gonna get past the first floor on your whole weekend if you're lucky.
It's Artist Alley on the basement. You've got the main floor on the middle, the main, what you think of Comic-Con, that's the middle floor. And the top floor is more comics, more board games. It's just Javits Center is insane. I think last year they had 72,000 people there. It's madness. I'm very excited again to get I want to get your first reaction day one. Are you going Wednesday? Is that preview day? Are you going Wednesday? Or are you going Thursday for your
Okay. So, listeners, I promise we have a show for you, all right? Just ride along, all right? You're hanging out with the boys today. My plan, so we fly in on Wednesday, and my most immediate plan, this is a personal thing I need to go do. When I get there on Wednesday, I think we get there around 1-ish, so our Airbnb ain't going to be ready for a couple hours. I'm going to catch a train or maybe an Uber or a cab or something to Brooklyn. I'm going to go to the Brooklyn Library because currently right now they have a Jay-Z exhibit that has taken over the Brooklyn Library, and I have to go see this. So that's what I'm doing on Wednesday. but I will be ready.
Boy.
Yeah, I will be ready. It's almost like a little like a pilgrimage for me. Like I got to go see this. But I will be ready for all the comic goodness the rest of the week. I don't think I'm going to do the preview night on Wednesday.
You need to get pizza while you're in Brooklyn, too, because whatever anyone says about New York, Manhattan, the best pizza is in Brooklyn. So if you're going to get pizza, go while you're in Brooklyn.
Done deal. All right. Once again, to our listeners that are planning to attend New York Comic Con, that'll be there. I highly suggest, please come on out to our panel. Once again, the Awesome Power of Comic podcast and how you can start one yourself. Saturday, October 14th, 6 to 7 p.m. I'll have a link in these show notes so you don't got to memorize that. Find me, find Chris. Drew will be there. I know he'll be just as excited as me. Come say hi to us, right? Find us. We'll have some goodies with us. Now that we've got the shameless plug out the way, let's get this show started, all right? We got some comic news to talk about. We got headlines to talk about, some recent developments, and all that. And I want to start off this conversation. All of us are coming to the table with one specific news item. Me, I've got two. You know how it is. You know, bias. All right, it's how it is. It's just how it is. It's host privilege. I want to start off this conversation with covering a recent a news piece that I saw. Technically, it's like 2 weeks old, but we're talking about covering items from the month of September. So there's going to be a couple of minor, some semi-old things on here. But I saw this headline. I'm like, we got to talk about this. Daniel Warren Johnson's Transformers #1 opens with over 153,000 orders. This was the headline for a Bleeding Cool article about 2 weeks ago. September, I think 19th is the date for this article, or 14th. So about a week before we put out our episode of Daniel Warren Johnson, which was the last episode. If you haven't heard our interview with Daniel Warren Johnson, I highly recommend you go check that out after you finish this episode. Because we had Daniel Warren Johnson on the podcast to talk about his career in comics, how he makes comics, and we also got to talk about Transformers #1, as some of you, as maybe all of you might know by now. I feel like everyone in comics probably knows this. Daniel Warren Johnson is doing a Transformers book. He's writing. He's
if you don't know, now you know.
Now you know for sure. I like this whole like New York rapper theme we got going on.
I'm going to keep it going. I'm going to go with Nas next. So keep going.
Please. So Daniel Warren Johnson is doing a Transformers book. It comes out October 4th, which is the first Wednesday in October. And already, he's already got 153,000 orders at the, mid-September. I can only imagine what it's at now. It's probably closer to, 175 or something like that. But already a very impressive feat with 153 orders. It is, apparently, it set a record for Hasbro. It is Hasbro's, this is not only a record, according to the article, this is not only a record for any Hasbro licensed comic launched this century, but also the top-selling debut for Skybound outside of Walking Dead, which is, look, you got two records in one? That's pretty damn incredible. And
what a year for Hasbro, by the way, with this and Barbie, like both breaking insane records.
It's if I was an employee at Hasbro right now, I'd be like, my bonus better look nice. I want to read this little excerpt from the article, and you guys tell me how you how you take this. All right, it says, according to the article, Transformers #1 debut number happened with the ever popular retailer variants at less than 20% of the total print run for Transformers #1. And no ratio variant above 1 to 100, despite many other big launches and reaching years relying on variant ratios as high as 1 in 1,000. So the way I'm taking that is that Transformers #1, just the base cover, is selling hot. It's not like a case of like a big, whatever, maybe Marvel or DC book that has a 1 in 1,000 variant, which kind of drives up those numbers, right? I know a lot of retailers sometimes will go ahead and order 1,000 of one book to get that one hyper exclusive variant because they know they could sell that and maybe make up some of that, a large chunk of that money they spent on ordering 1,000 copies. That's how I'm reading this. And if that's the case, that's even more impressive, right? That there's no gimmicks or
no asterisks next to those numbers,
Yeah. It's like, no, this is, 153,000 copies. No bullshit, no, working the system on our end. Skybound and is doing their thing with the marketing. There's natural hype and excitement for Daniel Warren Johnson for a new Transformers book. It's just getting me even more hype. I think this whole rollout for Transformers, for this, really the whole Energon universe, has been exciting to like watch with Robert Kirkman at like the helm and all that, and Skybound. What were you saying, Chris?
I said pun. You said roll with this whole rollout. Let's
out.
roll out. That's
Phone.
the Transformers.
Nice.
There you go.
I mean, you know,
when you're that good, everybody listening out, when you're that good, you don't even realize it.
Man,
We are among a legend right now, everybody.
you can either be I'm that good or I'm just that corny. I'll take the former. All right.
He'd be like, he's like, Robert Kirkman and Daniel Warren Johnson really are transforming Skybound over there.
Much more than
everybody
meets
stands
the
up
eyes.
and claps.
Yeah, there's much more than meets the eyes, ladies and gents.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right, but well, actually, speaking of Robert Kirkman, as we know, Robert Kirkman and artist Lorenzo De Felici, I think that's how you say his name. They're doing they kickstarted the whole Energon universe with Void Rivals, which came out in June. It feels like it's been, it's been much longer because of how much hype and talk people have excitement people have had for the series. But even Void Rivals #1, which, like I said, came out around June, broke I don't think it broke a record, but they were in the six-figure order numbers too. They had a whopping 101,000 copies before the close of the FOC for Void Rivals #1. So about a month before the release of Void Rivals #1, they were already in the 100,000 copies. And I wish I had something to kind of like juxtapose this to show why that's a big deal, but it was a lot harder to find out how much comic units have sold this past month. I'm finding that might be a topic for another day, but I was trying to like look up how many copies of Batman sold last month so I can put them side by side, but that was a lot harder to find. So
Butter, you know what's interesting about that, and this is I worked in a comic shop. Shout out to the Fancy Shop in St. Charles, Missouri. I worked at a comic shop for 3 years. There is no data on what these comics are selling. Bleeding Cool or AIPT.
Dude, I thought
Comic
Comic-Con would have that, but for some reason they don't. I feel like I used to be able to go to comiccron.com and get the units sold. Like, hey, here's the top 5 books that sold this month. Batman sold 100,000 units or something, but I can't find any of that.
So I know for a long time they were, because again, Marvel, DC, Diamond, even Lunar, Penguin Random House, no one releases these numbers. What they do is, and again, how these comic sites get their numbers is they actually reach out. They have like people in different markets. They ask actual comic book stores how many they ordered, and that's how they kind of roughly. Wow. It's kind of like
that's a lot.
The good way to compare this for everyone who podcasting. The download numbers, those are so obscure. You don't really even know. You're just kind of piecing it together from different platforms. That's very similar to what the comic industry is doing with Transformers here. Like I see here again, like you had said that it 153,000 units. That's probably not even accurate. Could be more, could be less. I mean, I think it's probably around somewhere in that, but there's probably plenty of small mom and pop comic stores that didn't contribute to this rough estimate. And then kind of along with that as well, I wanted to point out that this is actually $4.99 as well. So that probably has something to do with it. I know it's only $1 compared to the normal $3.99, but a comic, the first issue being $4.99, I think that makes a big difference whenever you're talking about a comic that sells as much as this did.
Yeah, let's go and do some math real quick. Let's just round it up to a clean 5. So 5 times 153,000. We're looking at 765,000, what is that? That'd be gross? That'd be gross, not net. So we're almost looking at almost $1 million. What is that? Almost looking at $1 million worth of sales right there.
And that's just that I would dare to say too that this number of 153,000.
I think it's definitely gone up by now.
It's definitely gone up, and it's also not accounting for people who are buying multiple covers. I'm one of those people. I will be doing that. Same. I think they are only this is like an estimate for someone who's going to buy the first issue, right? Like just one cover, which, and again, if you've seen these covers, not only Daniel Warren Johnson's cover, every cover is fucking baller.
Can I say
they're all awesome.
The only thing that it slightly confuses me is that there isn't more covers. I think there is like a fair amount of covers for this, but this isn't, I think about like big #1 releases, like Star Wars #1 is something I always go back to when Marvel got the rights to, or Star Wars, and they were putting out the first issue of Jason Aaron and
Jason Aaron run,
and who's the artist? John Cassidy. That infamous Star Wars #1 that I think set a world record for like most comics sold when it came out. That one had like, it was like cover A, B, C, all the way through like Z. I think they even started like double lettering it. Cover double A, A, B. So it's interesting that this one doesn't rely on like the overly, having a bunch of covers and variants, and like the article says, like it doesn't really rely on like that very obscure 1 in 1,000 variants. It's just like, hey, look, people are excited for this, and the pre-orders show that. Just a little more background for anyone listening that maybe isn't quite aware of the Transformers role. It's part of the larger new Energon universe that Robert Kirkman and folks like Daniel Warren Johnson are launching. So Void Rivals being the flagship title to kick off this new Energon universe. We got Transformers #1 coming out October 4th. And then December, we get the G.I. Joe aspect of it with the launch of Duke #1, which is being written by Joshua Williamson and Tom Riley. They just put out the cover for #1, or it was my first time seeing it like this week. Cover looks gorgeous. You got Duke on the cover, and you got a cameo from Starscream in the back as well, kind of showing you like, hey, this is all connected. We got G.I. Joe. You're going to see Cobra. You're going to see the Transformers.
Synergy.
Yeah, all of that. You know what I'm saying? That is what this book is being powered by. It's not being powered by Energon. It's being powered by synergy.
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see, a shared... this shared universe happening, and it makes so much sense too. It doesn't feel. Ed, you tell me, does it feel out of place for you to see Transformers and G.I. Joe together?
No, because the IDW did it. I mean, they did a crossover when they had the IP, so it's definitely a natural fit. And yeah, like I said, it's a huge get for Kirkman, and I think as quality as the IDW run was, it was a lot of people liked it. I think this is kind of breathes new life into the franchises. When I heard Daniel Warren Johnson, who's probably done like my 3 favorite books the last 3 years, like Wonder Woman, Dead Earth, Beta Ray Bill, and do a Power Bomb. Now he's doing. This guy is just killing it. He's just on a streak,
hits,
dude.
Yeah, his greatest hits album is like insane.
And I would like if someone and that's not like the first artist I would say, I'd really like to see him draw Transformers, because I think of his work as more like organic and and usually you see the Transformers comics, everything's so technical and precise, but I cannot wait to see Optimus Prime suplexing Starscream and doing all these wrestling moves. I cannot wait to see Transformers. It's gonna be like when I was a kid playing with the toys.
Also, as someone who's read the first issue already, I can tell you're definitely gonna get that.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Ed, I've been
He always throws in the wrestling moves.
I've been fortunate enough to read the first issue, a little preview copy.
Oh, wow.
Man, like as someone who's already read it, I'm looking forward to going into the shop still on Wednesday. Next Wednesday to go into the shop. Well, I guess the day this episode comes out, to go into that shop today and fucking pick up like multiple copies.
As you're listening to this, Bonner is buying 7 covers of Transformers, including the 1 in 100 ratio.
Yeah, as you're listening to this, I'm making bad financial decisions before I go spend all my life savings at New York Comic Con. So
that being said, patreon.com/the short box.
Oh, nice. Thank you, sir.
Make sure you subscribe, and follow.
This is why I bring Chris on. All right. Not only is there synergy here with the New York Comic Con panel, he's just great overall, but he helps us get the word out about the short box. So that is how I wanted to kick things off. Transformers #1. Just in recap, Transformers #1 is kicking ass with the pre-orders. Comes out October 4th. And not only should you be excited about Transformers #1, but you should also just be excited about this overall Energon universe is being advertised and pushed as a fresh starting or jumping on point for fans of Transformers and G.I. Joe, and I think just comic fans in general. It feels good to see like to have like this energy right now in the comic, in the comic shops. Like it feels exciting, it's cool, and I'm all here for it. So that's how I'm gonna kick things off.
If I could just quickly say as well, I think as someone who is the passive Transformers fan, I'm a kid of the 90s, so Transformers, He-Man, G.I. Joe, all of this kind of was slightly before me, and it was before us in general, right? It was on syndication, but by that time we were into other things, right? I will tell you that if the Energon universe, if Skybound was creating this brand new Transformers series without Daniel Warren Johnson, I would have already looked the other way months ago.
Yeah.
But the fact that, and Ed, you kind of said it a little bit earlier, Daniel Warren Johnson is so pervasive in what I love in the world of comics that anything that he does, he could work on a Trolls comic for all I care. I'm buying every cover. I'm telling you right now. And I know it's not a hot take to love Daniel Warren Johnson, but like, again, as someone, I've been lucky enough to read, Bonner and I've both been lucky enough to read that first issue. It just fucking works. Like he adds that DWJ-ness to everything that he does. And it's that special sauce that it works every time,
Yeah.
you know, and I'm really excited for people to eventually read this later today.
Like
you know?
Ed mentioned, I can only think of like Ed. You mentioned that they've already done this in IDW. What do you think the IDW creative team is looking like? They're like, guys, we did that 10 years ago.
It's probably like Dark Horse of the Star Wars and the Aliens, and all the properties they just got ripped away from them.
Oof.
Yeah, it's a rough. They're probably not feeling great.
Once again, I'm currently at the shop spending all my money on multiple copies. All right, let's turn the corner with this next topic here. Ed, you got something that you want to bring to the table. I'm gonna toss it to you. What you got for us?
It's interesting. Okay, this is the date. September 14th, 2023.
Damn, a lot of shit happened on September 14th. We should have recorded this on September 15th.
So it's a strange scenario of a Vertigo now. I'm not sure what label it falls under now, but Bill Willingham's Fable. He has basically
Black Label now.
It's Black. Okay, yes, everything defaults to Black Label.
Yeah.
Even though it's like 90% Batman books.
It's Batman and old Vertigo. That's all you get at Black Label anymore.
So multiple, like I said, a very critically praised series, Hugo nominated, multiple Eisner Award winning. The controversy here is basically he said with all his dealings with DC on basically chasing royalty money and just kind of this kind of ambiguous ownership. So one side says they own one side says they own the other. So he's supposedly this is his creator owned work. So with all of his frustrations with DC over the years, he basically said, "Hey, public domain, you guys want to write Fable stuff? Go for it." That's kind of some weird loophole he thinks that might work, which I don't think will. It's just a strange move, and on top of that, it's an interesting move on releasing this in the public domain when the characters in the story are public domain characters like Rose Red, Snow White, Prince Charming. So it's definitely a odd. They're kind of like at this stalemate where, like I said, basically I read his IP manifesto. Basically, the issues he's had with DC was, he's basically royalties. They never consulted on any new editions they release. He'd always have to chase them down. They never consulted on what artists they would put to his work. So obviously very frustrating things. And I guess when they wanted to do I believe the 20th anniversary, Dan DiDio was bringing him in and he got fired during these negotiations. They tried to give him a work for hire contract, which would essentially revert those rights to DC. And it basically said, "Oh, we didn't read your contract. We thought we owned it." It's just 20 years, bro. So
Wow.
I kind of understand his frustrations, and he's pushing 70. So he's not a spring chicken. So he's not going to battle this monolithic Warner Brothers. Jim Lee's got the sword out. He's ready. He's on his throne of swords waiting. But
really quick, Ed, I love that your joke about Jim Lee on the Iron Throne has survived all these years. You're onto something.
Clawed his way to the top.
You have been onto something about Jim Lee.
This is
for
not a
years now.
negative. This is he is playing chess his whole career.
3D chess at that. It's like 4D chess.
The jump to Image as Marvel's Golden Boy, the chance he took building this thing, selling it to DC, working his way through the ranks as the office guy, making a comeback, getting his name. He's the face of now. He is the face of DC. Whether, what power he has, he is definitely the face of the company, which is, it's odd since he made his fame as a Marvel artist selling the most comics of X-Men 1.
Yeah.
But yeah, but this is such an interesting thing is because according to there's been some like copyright paperwork come up and the language looks like they both co-own it. So one can't do any moves without the other one's permission. So like if they want to make a movie, they have to get his approval and his, but he can't go to like Image and do a Fables miniseries or spinoff. So they're kind of at this stalemate, and it's just to me, it's just a fascinating story on IP, and he has this kind of in his manifesto, he basically has this IP theories like, you should only own it, 20 years. It's time you can either sell it, and the person you sell it to can only own it for 10 years, and then it should be available for the public to use. So he basically said things should only be tied up in like, the IP should only be tied up for like 30 years at the most, and it should be for the world to do with what they want. So it's interesting philosophy. It's an interesting situation. And DC just kind of finally did a corporate statement saying that, we still own Fables. We own the intellectual property. We will not, it is not part of the public domain. Basically, he's full of shit. You can't do this.
They do. They own this.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing about this whole ordeal. And we were talking a little bit before the recording here. I purposefully tried to stay away from anything Bill Willingham because he's a bad dude.
Yeah.
and
that's fair.
I will say this before, these old heads need to just shut the hell up. Like Jim Steranko, Bill Willingham. I'll even throw Rob Liefeld in that group. These guys don't know when to just shut their mouth. I understand, they have their views and they're going to put in their work, and I'm totally for that, of course. But when you have these terrible thoughts, like for instance, Bill Willingham at a panel at Gen Con it was in 2016. Apparently, there was this movement where it was a bunch of different creators. And apparently, anytime that someone who wasn't white or male, Bill Willingham would purposefully interrupt them with defensive comments about whatever the topic was for this panel. This is from multiple firsthand accounts, and that's just one little tip of the iceberg of his many years of just saying very outlandish, questionable things on social media. The guy is out of touch, and I think that this whole thing about him giving up the rights to Fables is him getting ahead of the narrative, saying, I want to get this out of my hands. I want to give it back to the people because DC is so horrible. And I'm not defending DC. I'm not defending any big publisher here, but I'm saying this is definitely on Willingham. He's not a good dude. And that this whole thing is a ruse for him to, for the rest of his life, say, oh, I gave it up instead of they fired me.
A mic drop moment.
Interesting. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't want anyone to think that I don't want creators to speak out against their thoughts or anything,
And it's hard to and from your point of view, I know it's hard to separate, especially in situations like this, separating the art from the artist, especially when the artist is still around and lives in our time. As much as I love H.P. Lovecraft, kind of a piece of shit, but he's
you ever read Rats on the Walls?
Yeah,
it's
but
pretty fucking racist.
But he's probably one of the most influential science fiction, a genre creating author.
Yeah, you can't take away the
and
talent.
I can't take away the work, and I agree with you. Like I said, bad dude, but I see what he's saying, and just even seeing some of that paperwork, it has both their names, so it's like Bill Willingham and DC, so they're kind of stuck in this awful marriage, until he's gone. And like I said, it's just a weird, it's more of the move. And that's an interesting, I didn't think about that angle you're coming from, but that is definitely something to think about for sure. And then like I said, I don't know. And I kind of read, cause like I said, I'd never read Fables. I try not to follow these guys too closely because a lot of times it's like, oh man, I gotta fuck this guy too. God damn it. Yeah. It's like
I just wish people.
Is there any decent person around?
I don't want to not like comic creators. That's the worst thing. Yeah. Is that this should be a space where we escape, and we should. It's for progressive thoughts. It's for people who are giving voices to the the disenfranchised. And when you have someone like, again, a Steranko or a Willingham who are just these out of touch, just want to force their terrible views on people. And anybody who disagrees is not intelligent. I've heard him say that on social media. Come at me with an intelligent thought. I think he is like one of his favorite terms on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling it.
It's like an arbitrary thing. It's like, are you the one defining what's intelligent or not? Because I'm backing this shit up with facts.
Yeah,
bro.
and unfortunately now it's like we see all sides. We see the negative and the positive. We don't just see clips or magazine interviews where they're on their best behavior. You see all the ugliness out now, and that's an unfortunate thing with social media for sure. And it
thrives on that negativity.
Yeah,
too,
and but it's like I've always joked like with Botters, like it's just it's an old white dude. You're kind of like that's the way old white dudes are. Of a certain generation. It's like I'm not making an excuse for that at all, but it's just it's one of those things where I kind of have to I'll just look at the work and then kind of I don't need to know about their personal life.
It's unsurprising, but it's still disappointing.
Oh, very sure. Yeah, it is disappointing. So because I was like, first my initial thing was like, oh, attaboy, Bill, and then when I started digging in, like the stuff you brought up, it's like, Oh, really? All right. Well, this is going to be awkward.
But I think if we're looking at this news piece just strictly from a objective, a viewpoint
About Fables.
strictly about Fables and his gripe, I do side with him in that regard. And I will admit, I'm kind of silent on this topic just because I'll admit I did not really read into this too much. I saw the initial Bill Willingham decides to, hey, everything's public domain.
Yeah.
And I remember my initial reaction was kind of yours, Ed, like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's how it works.
Yeah.
And then immediately, DC immediately put out, their piece. And I was like, all right, well, that must be the end of it. I did not know about the co-ownership.
Yeah.
And that makes things really
because someone posted I don't know if now I didn't look too far into this. This is what was posted as like the terms, and it basically co-ops both of them. It's not like DC is there too. It's like Fables characters, Bill Willingham and DC Comics / Warner Brothers, whatever. So it's
so where is it at right now? Right now, it's just like kind of in a weird limbo.
It's like a Mexican standoff kind of thing. There's kind of like they're kind of at a, and I think that's what he does. And like I said, it's possibly it could be in the guise of young creators can use my my creation to create their own stories, and he could be trying to white knight himself or make himself look good.
That's exactly
And DC's on the side like we'll sue the shit out of you.
Oh, there's two bad people. It's like who's worse? It's like
rocking a hard place right now.
Yeah, it's like
yep.
Interesting.
Have you guys familiar at all with the deal that Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons got for Watchmen back in the day for Vertigo as well with DC Comics?
Wasn't it to the tune of as long as the minute DC or Vertigo stopped publishing Watchmen, the rights would revert back to Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. But DC, that's why every year we get like a different Watchmen omnibus, absolute edition. Is that the gist of it?
Yes, you're absolutely right, and that's essentially the same deal that everyone got, including Willingham, got in the '90s with Fables, because it was a Vertigo title, and essentially what it is exactly what you said, Botter. It's the moment that it goes out of print for 8 months or longer.
I didn't know about
100% goes to the creator.
Yeah. So
and that's why, again, if you go to a comic shop, you see multiple versions: 10th anniversary, 15th anniversary,
any reissues.
Edition,
this is a hardcover.
deluxe.
Oh, there's behind the scenes stuff. Oh, there's another.
There are so many versions of Fables. And what Willingham is essentially trying to do, he is like a poor man's Alan Moore here. He's trying to, like you said, Ed, white knight himself and go, no. I gave up the rights because I am tired of the establishment.
Yeah.
And again, this will be the last thing I say about it. That's not at all what's happening here. He is trying to get ahead of his bad behavior, and it's gross, but we know. Bill, William, I'm talking to you. We know. All right?
We see through the facade, buddy. You don't even know these characters.
So it's kind of similar to the Sony Spider-Man thing, too. They keep putting out Spider-Man, tangentially related Spider-Man movies.
Yeah. Putting out it's the same thing with Dick Tracy. I'm forgetting the actor who played the character in the early 90s. He just so he put out the movie in the 90s, and then every couple years he'll put out like a 10-minute YouTube video, and that suffices as his retention.
Those are so weird. He talks to himself.
Those, right?
He interviews himself as Dick Tracy.
Yes.
He's like,
hey, see, darling.
Yeah, see? That's funny. Warren Beatty. That's what it is.
Warren Beatty.
Because I was going to bring up one of a Dick Tracy related thing, but that's funny that you.
Yeah.
Dick Tracy.
Interesting.
Yeah, he has some weird stranglehold on that.
William, as Chris called him. Okay.
Well, he's alliteration. Willingham. The old WW.
Oh, that's
so. I guess
unfortunate.
I guess in closing, DC can still put out. I'm assuming Fables material, right? Like they can still put out books and vice versa. You know what I'm saying? It's like
according to Willingham, basically they can do. And additions, but he has to kind of consult on them or approve them, and he gets royalties from them.
Interesting.
Which is something he said he always had to kind of chase down because they would like not report what they sold, kind of like fudge the numbers so they didn't have to pay him and stuff, which is pretty shitty too.
This is definitely a nuanced topic.
Yeah.
Like Chris had said in the beginning, you definitely don't side with the big corporation that's screwing like the artists and the creators. But then at the same time, you're like, Yeah, but I feel weird rooting for a guy that I fundamentally don't really agree with.
It's like that South
all.
Park, the shit sandwich and giant douche. It's like, well, you got to vote for one of them. You got to take one side. Yeah. It's like both sides suck.
But this is a bad comparison. Have you guys seen the documentary about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp on Netflix?
Oh,
no, I have not.
It's the same thing. Everybody sides behind Johnny Depp, but the dude didn't do any. He did some pretty terrible shit too.
Yeah.
And everybody gives, and Amber Heard's not, victimless here either. They both were being terrible people to each other, and it's the voice of public opinion sided with Johnny Depp, and that's why we all in our headcanon think that he was correct in this whole thing.
I think
when in reality, he was a drunk. Like he did terrible shit too.
I think when she shit in the bed, that kind of like turned everybody. I was like, what she did what now?
There's some things.
To Captain Jack? How dare you?
There's some things you just don't get over. All right. I guess in closing, what I'll say
foul,
is...
Amber Heard.
I guess in closing, what I'll...
Nice.
Sorry, that was a low-hanging fruit. I apologize.
We got to give Chris that one.
That's why he's a broadcast professional.
Yeah, no,
that's why you're a broadcast professional.
That's why Chris is on the show. All right, so it sounds like if you are a Fables fan, it's going to be a rough couple of years for you.
But you might be getting some nice new additions coming out.
Yeah, a little
just wait for 8 months after Willingham dies, and you'll get your Fables back. All right, don't worry, it's fine.
There's going to be a mini series, a movie. There's going to be action figures.
Yeah. I hope he's got Alan Moore's phone number on deck. They can go ahead and hash it out together. These motherfuckers. That's what they're going to say. All right, Chris, take it away, man. You got something for us too. What's your news piece?
So we have the return of Ultimate Spider-Man, and this was big news. It was big news for fans of Spider-Man. Big news for people who loved the original Ultimate Spider-Man with Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. This time around, though, we've got Jonathan Hickman, fresh off the back of the House of 10, Powers of X-Men universe revamp, and then also artist Marco Cicchetto, who recently finished up Daredevil with Chip Zdarsky. So we have a panel coming at New York Comic Con. It'll be essentially kind of the laid out plans of what this essentially is off the back of the Ultimate Invasion, which again was written by Jonathan Hickman. This is the return of the Ultimate Universe from the early 2000s, and Brian Hitch, of course, on art for that Ultimate Invasion. There's not really a ton of news about the Ultimate Spider-Man coming back. It is the only Ultimate title that's been announced thus far, and I'm assuming we'll get more information at this panel at New York. I bring all this up, guys, because I'm conflicted. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, because I am a giant fan of that original Ultimate Spider-Man from back in the day, again, by Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley. 160 issues of amazingness. Like, it's between that and Invincible. It is just, you can read it at any point in your life, and it hits the same or better every single time. It lasted for 11 years. Brian Michael Bendis, shameless plug, came onto the show, and I had to ask him about his Ultimate Spider-Man run. And of course, he created Miles Morales during that run.
Oh yeah.
There's so many incredible things about that original Ultimate Spider-Man. And that is why, gentlemen, I am not looking forward to this. And Jonathan Hickman very rarely does wrong in the comic universe. I can't even honestly think of something off the top of my head where I go, man, that's an odd decision by Jonathan Hickman. He's creating other languages and like.
I'm gonna jump in real quick.
Potter, go ahead.
I want to jump in real quick. Hickman doesn't produce bad quality, in my opinion. He does produce very complicated quality where you're not sure if you're enjoying it. You know what I'm saying? You're like, I don't know if I'm having fun as much as I'm like having to really decipher this new language, or
like is this good? Themes. Is this bad, or am I just too dumb?
That's it. Jonathan Hickman's on his worst days just make you feel stupid. It's never like terrible quality. It's just like, this is really dense, and I think I just wanted to escape. And Spider-Man is definitely a character you're like, I go into it knowing I just want to feel good. I want to be inspired and feel good. And Hickman's very dense world building story style. It'll be a very interesting, I think, meshing of styles. At the very least, the art's going to look beautiful. Marco Cicchetto
is one of the best
insane.
in the industry now. Yeah.
Chris, I saw this. I saw the announcement when they. I saw the announcement the day they made it or shared it on Twitter, and I did get hyped. My first initial reaction was like, "What? Hickman on like one of my favorite characters of all time?" And then as it like kind of just settled in, and I'm thinking about like his infamous Avengers and New Avengers run, and even like Ultimate Invasion, like his most recent one. You know, there is a little bit of like, I don't know if I want all that with Spider-Man. You know, it's like I just want a really cool rogues gallery,
some apocalyptic nightmare coming. This
Spider-Man
fun
fighting
character.
God. You know, like you know all these.
How's his time? I haven't read him in a while. How's his timeliness? Does he still disappear?
Are you talking about Spider-Man or John?
I think he's talking
Hickman.
like as far as meeting his deadlines and stuff.
Oh, sure. I mean, I
would
think
say
for the
so.
most part, he's on time.
Okay.
I know a lot of times they give him plenty of
I followed
time
some
to
like
work on his stuff.
creator-owned stuff. He just like never came back. Is like, what happened?
Yeah, east
Where'd
to
you
west
go?
at the end, kind of like few and far between. And then, so here's what's interesting about Hickman at Marvel is that he's Mr. Fix-It. Since his career back at the beginning of the Ultimate Universe, he wrote the Ultimates Volume 2 after Mark Millar left the title. It was Jonathan Hickman who came in and took that over. Then, of course, we've got the Avengers. You had that Avengers run there. Fantastic Four, a title for a long time, was unsellable during the 90s after John Byrne left it in the late 80s, early 90s.
They even canceled it for a bit, didn't they?
They did, yeah. Exactly.
Canceled the
And then,
Marvel's
of course,
first family. They were like, get the hell out of
Sorry.
here.
Well, and that, of course, was because Fox owned it. It was the same thing with the X-Men. And then the Secret Wars, which is my favorite event title of all time.
The
is
2015 series,
Yeah, just a culmination of everything. And then Mr. Fix-It comes in again with the X-Men and recreates the X-Men universe over at Marvel, and I think for the better. We're seeing the destruction of that right now, and I think that the Ultimate Universe the Ultimate Spider-Man title being revamped here and it being kind of the launch title with this new revamped Ultimate Universe is a direct response to Zeb Wells' amazing Spider-Man that's going on right now. And but I'd love for you to talk about that because as someone who read the first couple issues and was completely off from the title, and I'm not someone who likes to generally be negative about the comic industry in general. I only like to talk about things that I like.
Same.
I will say the Spider-Man title is not great right now. It's not good.
You know, man, that was a series that I didn't really last too long. You know, either I think I maybe collected the first 2 or 3 issues, and I just hopped off. Not because of the quality at the time. I think they kind of threw me off that Ryan Otley was not, you know, because the big thing was like, yo, Zeb Wells is the writer and Ryan Otley doing the interiors. But I think Ryan Otley hopped after bounced after the first 4 or 5 issues. And for me, that was what's up?
Otley was the artist on Nick Spencer's run, who was before Zeb Wells.
You're right. John Romita Jr. was the artist on that.
Junior.
And I think by the time I had hopped off, the previous run of Spider-Man, he just, I don't know, man. I think I let some of the negativity and the perception I see online and the reviews kind of steer me away from I haven't collected Spider-Man, for a minute. So seeing this Hickman news, I'm like, oh, this might be the first time I collect Spider-Man as on my pull for the first time in like years. But in that context, Chris, that makes a lot of sense. You know, you call him Mr. Fix-It, and Hickman has done that. That is his track record with Marvel. But it's also interesting that this is an Ultimate title and not the main run. But I think it just lines up to what he's doing for Ultimate Invasion and bringing back the Ultimate Universe and getting to like that is his sandbox. So I do get it in that regard. So there is a little bit of curiosity in like how this will sell compared to the main line, who I think right now Zeb Wells is still writing.
He's still on it. I think that what you're saying right there was a prerequisite for Hickman agreeing to be on the title. He didn't want to come into that continuity and whatever Zeb Wells has done and what Nick Spencer did before him. He doesn't want to be tied down. That's always Hickman's thing, is that if you want me on this title, if you want me to come in here and fix your deal,
blanche. Give me carte
you
blanche.
better freaking wipe the slate clean. I need something new. Let me play in my own playground, right? And I think that's what I find most interesting, I think, about this, again, revamp of Ultimate Spider-Man is that we don't know who Spider-Man is.
True.
Miles Morales is in the normal universe. Peter Parker is in the normal universe. So who is going to be this Ultimate Spider-Man? Because I don't know if you guys have read Ultimate Invasion, but this Ultimate Universe is a new Ultimate Universe. It's not the 6110. That's the old Ultimate Universe. This new one is 6160. So it's a brand new universe.
Oh my god, my head hurts.
All new time.
So guys, there's a lot of different numbers out there. All right.
So basically, because I haven't followed any Spider stuff in a while, so basically, because I always, as a very casual Hickman reader, I always see him as more of like you said, either a Mr. Fix-It or a big picture, big event,
Super heady,
like apocalyptic, almost. Just
what is God?
Yeah,
what are we?
And him doing like a I guess like a street level kind of more personal character, which he's just working, one borough of New York. You know what I'm saying? Is that seem too small, Sam? But is he basically expanding this new Ultimate Universe? Is he basically kind of the architect for this new Ultimate Universe now? So he's gonna start here and then kind of branch out this.
I think that is a safe assumption.
Okay, I'm just kind of, like I said, I haven't been following it, so I'm just like, and so it's not Miles Morales.
No, it's definitely not Miles.
Oh, we don't know.
We don't know for sure, but I'm gonna bet that it's not Miles because Miles has his own title.
But technically, he's a different. He's not that Miles Morales won't be, and this is a different Ultimate Universe, so it could be.
Miles could pop back up in this new Ultimate Universe, and it could not even be the same.
Or whoever
Miles,
the
right?
Prowler could be.
Oh,
that could be the
Aaron.
Yeah.
I
know.
don't know.
That's interesting.
So I think I'm going to call my shot here, everybody, and this just popped in my brain, Ed, while you were talking. The two titles that Hickman is working on now, because he's not with the X-Men anymore. Like I said, they're destroying the House of 10 Powers of X. That's like their new event that's coming out during the winter, is the destruction of the House of X, right? That's the new thing they're promoting. The thing that Hickman's working on in the normal universe is this new title called Gods.
Yep.
That apparently is kind of a revamp, a analysis of the gods of the Marvel universe. And then
in the original solicitation, I think they were comparing this Gods project. It's supposed to be like the Sandman of like the Marvel universe. So like very like obscure, heady characters dealing with, like you said, like gods and demigods and like reality and stuff like that.
Yeah. And then the other title he's working on, the most, like you said, Ed, the most street level character in Marvel with Spider-Man over in the Ultimate Universe. And he's going to be also kind of spearheading that as like the overarching architect of that universe. I think at some point in the future, within the next 5 to 7 years, we're going to have another Secret Wars type of event between these gods are going to play in the Ultimate Universe at some point. I think he's setting something up for the Ultimate Universe and the normal universe to clash in some way. Maybe not the destruction again, like it was in Secret Wars, but something where they definitely bleed into each other in some way.
That is a fair assumption right there. I like that bet, and it'll be interesting to revisit this episode if years from. I mean, Hickman, he's like at least a 2-year investment. You're not going to see the fruits. at least if they keep him on this long, and if his plans are that big, we're not going to see the final picture until like years from now. But it will be cool to see him flex. A different. I don't know if it's going to be a different muscle. It's Hickman, man. Like this dude can probably write. He can write anything. But to Ed's point, it does seem like a departure from the larger themes and bigger stories that he does. But who knows? Maybe he'll have fucking Spider-Man fighting. Maybe he will have Spider-Man.
Galactus, issue 1.
Yeah. What if God was one of us? I couldn't help but think that song when you mentioned that. Yeah. Look,
I'm just curious. I haven't seen him write a story like that, so I'm kind of interested in seeing that too.
Yeah.
I think he's done too. Like Botter, to your point, I think he's done too much right for us to doubt him at this point.
For the record, look,
I liked all his stuff I've read.
I am what is it? Not evangelist. I am a evangelist when it comes to Hickman. All right, and he has not done wrong by me. All I will say is sometimes that shit kind of goes over my head. Sometimes I got to read this book
still can't
2 or
read
3
East to
times.
West.
I love East to West, and I still don't know what's going on.
Times.
But it looks cool.
Every time I get one.
This all white guy looks pretty awesome.
Nick Dragota's art, really incredible.
I guess this guy can't draw horses, so these other things look kind of neat.
Yeah, right. I get 1 to 2 volumes into East to West. I'm like, have I even been reading words for the last 30 minutes?
So is this guy a little kid? What is,
Yeah, look, Hickman, I definitely go into...
Who's this cowboy guy?
I definitely go into Hickman books like, all right, Botter, we're going to be reading.
I even got the source book, and I'm like,
We're going to be reading and analyzing. But I say all that to say I am this piques my interest big time. One of my favorite writers with one of my favorite characters and a badass artist. Let's not give Marco Cicchetto his props as well. It's creative team wise looks stellar, and this looks like it'd be a good jump. I think this is safe to say probably a good jumping on point for readers of all kinds. Why not?
Can I tell you my one reservation with this is that if it is successful, Marvel, as they often do, will learn the wrong lesson, and they will keep expanding in the Ultimate Universe, and then we will have double titles for the X-Men, for Captain America, for Thor.
And I was thinking about the situation with House of X, Power of X, right? Hickman comes in, writes maybe some of the best X-Men in years. Huge seller. Had everyone talking. I know, like, in my circle, we were all reading House of X, Power of X every week, talking about it. So, and then, to see, like, what happened to that, where Hickman's like, all right, I've got a 3-part or 3-act story, and then eventually Marvel editorial is like, whoa. We can't stop this cash train now. Like, come on, what are you doing? So I am curious to see how much creative control he's going to have over this Ultimate line. Yeah, exactly. Chris is.
I'm pointing to the 37 traits of the Rise of X, Reign of X, all the multiple Hellfire Galas, all the bullshit. I bought in because Hickman knocked it out of the park, like you said, with Powers of X and House of X, Powers of 10.
So I am curious to see if Hickman learned his lesson from that, and the negotiations, if he changed up the negotiations where it's like, look, but even though, talking about, big evil, corporations, I don't know. Chris, now you got me worried. Now you got me worried that they're going to milk this shit.
Sorry, I had to add a little cynicism into your excitement.
They're going to milk this for all it's worth, and it's going to end up being terrible. But at least I'll stay on board for the Hickman stuff. That's
I was like, I love comics and I love Spider-Man. I'm like, but business and money.
That is a part of comics you can't overlook at times. All right, good stuff. Thank you, Chris. I'm going to wrap this up on a really good note. Not saying that we haven't had good news, but I want to wrap this up on a very good note. The last news item that I'm going to share before we go into our next segment is, I'm just going to share the headline and then I'll go into it. Rick Remender signs 3-year exclusivity deal with Image Comics. This comes from a Comics Beat article that I read this week. Effective immediately, all future creator-owned projects from Rick Remender and his imprint, Giant Generator, will be exclusive to Image Comics. Now, my first reaction to seeing this was like, what's the difference?
Like 20 Image titles.
Like, that was my first reaction. Like, this is news? Like,
right.
It doesn't Remender drop all of his stuff on Image, but this essentially gives Image Comics like exclusive rights. Like, they are going to put out his books, all of his creator-owned stuff, and I think it just makes it more official, right? Like, I think prior to this deal being announced, Remender was actually in negotiations and talks with the big two. I think he was, Marvel had put on the table having him write X-Men, and DC offered him Batman. And actually, I'll just read this quote from the article from Remender talking about that deal. I've recently turned down very generous offers to write X-Men and Batman. And while flattered, that would ultimately be a step backwards artistically and not where my heart is at.
Man, that's some clout to have, right?
Like, hard
X-Men,
stop right there.
Yeah,
Come on.
Thanks,
He's
but
like,
no
Chip,
thanks.
you can have Batman.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm doing other things.
And I think that just makes me respect Remender even more.
Yeah.
As someone, when I think creator-owned comics and, like a poster boy for Image and what it stands for, and really just like success in comics, Rick Remender is someone that immediately comes to mind. You look at all the success he's had, all the titles he's worked with, the respect that other creators give him. I mean, hell, Daniel Warren Johnson, last episode, spoke so highly of Rick Remender. I think he said something to the effect of like being super impressed by how he's able to churn out creator-owned books. Especially when you consider how much you have to put yourself, how much it takes out of you as a creator. The fact that he's doubling down on creator-owned work, that he wants to own this stuff, and he's serious about it, and he's so serious about it that he's willing to do an exclusivity deal with Image, I think speaks a lot, man. And I think it also speaks a lot about Image and their respect for their creators. Yeah. And now, Grant, I know Image isn't perfect. I've definitely read, I feel like this year I've seen some stories about them, that leave much to be desired. But I think overall.
But yeah, Rick's a made man. More
for
or less,
sure.
You know what I'm saying?
True.
He's not like up and comer. He's an established dude.
He really cut his teeth.
And it's only 3 years, so it's not like I said, that's not in the scheme of things. That's not a long time. But there's a quote in that article. It's like, I like this quote. He's like, he wants to like build his own house.
Oh, I got it right here, and I think it's worth reading this full quote because I think it just kind of it shows where his head's at and why he would partner with Image, considering that he's got his own imprint. I imagine if he wanted to, he could find a means to print and distribute. But why not go with Image, right? Like that is
I mean, that's what
brand name.
Image is acting as, is a distribution point.
So this quote here from Rick Remender, I really like, and Ed, you brought it up. He quote, "Image takes no ownership, so my partners and I co-own 100% of our properties. It's short-term versus long-term thinking. You want to build your own house, make something that your children will inherit? Image is the only place. This contract is me saying that I bet on myself. I bet on my collaborators. I bet on my characters, stories, and owning what we make exclusively. With all we've got, like our lives are on the line." End quote. Put that shit on a shirt. Like, man.
Yeah.
Front and back.
That gets you inspired, man. Like,
now let's go in the second half and win the game.
facts. And when you consider like his output too, like that was something Daniel brought up, was his output, and a mass majority of that being creator owned. Like he and his relationship with Image like dates back way further than I thought. You know, I'm familiar with like that 2013, 2012 Image Renaissance period where, you know, he was in the middle of that. You know, he put out Black Science, Deadly Class, Low, Tokyo Ghost with Sean Murphy, 7 to Eternity, you know, with Jerome Pena. Like those are all like hits. Well, you can go back even further. You know, in 2005, he I think first got on board with Image with Fear Agent. And then he had some other titles I'm not quite familiar with, A Sea of Red and Strange Girl. I've not heard
I
of
love
those.
both. Sea of Red is like a pirate story.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And Strange Girl is like, there's a thing in, there's a thing, I think it's like a Baptist thing where, the word escapes me, but basically everybody gets sucked up to heaven who is a believer, and everyone else gets stuck on earth while everybody...
The Rapture?
Rapture, thank you. So that's basically, she is left there as a child, and like her whole family get raptured up, and basically demons take over the world. Oh, wow. So it's basically a, it's a very, religious thing, but that's one of I think that's the first thing I read of his.
Okay.
Either Strange Girl or Fear Agent, or one of those two.
Have you guys read A Righteous Thirst for Vengeance?
I have the first issue, but I haven't caught up with it.
I've only read the first issue. They just came out with the deluxe edition. It's really freaking awesome. Yeah, it's I mean, again, just reading the first issue, but I've seen many people who have caught up and read the entire thing, and they say that's one of his best. So,
damn.
Oh wow,
Did not know that. Wow, I didn't even have that on the list. But that's what I'm saying is Rick Remender. When it comes to like bodies of work, this is a very consistent, hard-working dude, and like I definitely think he is someone that you would want to study as a creator, whether I guess as a writer and just I think as a creator in general, because his eye for artistic talent is I think it's right up there with Mark Millar. We've talked about that Mark Millar has an insane eye for really good artistic talent. Rick Remender is just as strong when it comes to like who he decides to collaborate with. So. And
I think that's like a true testament to some of the best writers, like you're saying. Another example that comes to my brain immediately is Tom King here recently. Like every single Tom King book, that if you don't, for whatever reason, if you don't like what Tom is writing, you're going to love the way it looks. I mean, Human Target, Mr. Miracle, Strange Adventures, here more recently with Love Everlasting, like everything that he's been putting out. Again, it's a beautiful. I mean, I love Tom King, but the book is always gorgeous as well.
I think Rick. The more I'm looking at his stacked bibliography, I would say like Rick Remender probably has one of the strongest bodies of like work out there. I mean, some of the stuff is not my favorite. I'll admit, like Low didn't really resonate with me. I like Tokyo Ghost a lot. Black Science, classic. Deadly Class, classic. No pun intended.
People love 7 to Eternity. I didn't love it myself, but that's like one of the outliers. Rick Remender is like. Whoever your favorite comic creator is, I bet you Rick Remender's probably in their top 5.
Oh, for sure. And really quick, I know Zach Armour just heard me say 7 Eternity was not my favorite. I'm sorry, brother. He's been trying to get me to get on it. It's a time thing, but I will say for me that one didn't quite, grasp me. But that's not to say that a bunch of other people didn't fuck with 7 to Eternity. I will say his current stuff though, and his work ethic is insane because he's got 2. Comic series right now. There's Sacrificers, which is on issue 3, which is really good. That one is also really sad. Also really sad.
Yeah, that first issue. Oh boy,
Like
this is a real
insanely
bummer.
sad. I'm like, whoa, some PTSD from
So
like,
much child slavery. Oh, first issue. We're starting here. Sorry, son.
And
After I beat your ass, now I'm gonna give you up.
and he's got another book coming out this month, October, where he's doing with Andy Sandberg. Damn, I don't got the name here in front of me, but it's like something roller skater or something like that. But I say all that to say, Rick Remender, you know, I love seeing his name pop up in headlines because it normally means either it's going to be a new project or he's got something cool going on with his imprint. And the fact, you know, just knowing that he's going to continue his relationship with Image and it's on good terms and they're just as excited to have them on board. I'm really curious to see if this means that we're going to get more series or more projects from him, or they're just going to double down on what he's currently doing.
I know one thing they're doing.
Oh,
if I can share it. Deluxe hardcovers of 3 titles.
Oh, wow.
So they're doing a deluxe hardcover of Black Science, issues 1 through 16, Low, issues 1 through 15, and The Complete Tokyo Ghost. Getting that.
Oh,
so basically, part of that exclusivity, too, is like, and if you have the cachet he has, is like they'll publish these editions up front. You know, you don't have to prove yourself. You know, he's proven himself easily. Fair. So you get these nicer editions and on top of trades and stuff. So I'm looking forward to these deluxe hardcovers.
I love a deluxe hardcover.
Oh yeah, I got the.
I don't even care if I don't really love the series. Give me that deluxe hardcover. I'll take it.
I got that Strange. I have the omnibus of that hardcover omnibus of Strange Girl.
You know, and a weird. I don't know about you guys, but when I really like a series, I think that it kind of lends into what you guys are saying about the deluxe hardcovers. That is how I show how much I love it. You know, it's like, when
you buy it for the 8th time, it's like I got the singles, the paperback, the hardcover, the special edition.
I have Saga in 4 versions over here, guys. I know exactly what you're talking about.
It's like, what's the difference? You don't understand. This one comes with one extra sketch that the other one didn't.
It comes with the script for issue 7. How dare you?
That's a silent
and concept
issue,
art.
Yeah. Doodles on a napkin. He scanned into this.
Can I also admit that I don't really think I understood how long Rick Remender had been with Marvel, neither.
Yeah.
Because 2005 to 2007, he's with Image. And then from 2007 to, I believe, 2014, 15-ish, he's with Marvel. And I forgot
he left with After Axis.
Yeah, I forgot how. Yeah, I do remember that story. And then he goes back to Image, and he, you know, has another fucking Renaissance period. But I mean, even all his Marvel stuff was like huge. X-Force, fantastic. You know, I still talk about that series to this day. His Venom run, I haven't read all of it, but I know people that swear by it. His Frankencastle series.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying? Like, this dude has got
Legion of Monsters, my favorite.
And
the Uncanny X-Force, what you were just saying, is one of my favorite. It's one of the easiest recommends when it comes to like an X-Men title. And I'm not like an X-Men expert. There you go. There's some
expert. No, he's on a roll, folks.
There it is. Yeah, I've done it again. By golly. No, Uncanny X-Force, easy recommend. Easy. Great creative team, great art. Really, if you like. I remember thinking, because I recently reread it, and I remember thinking Remender he gets every single voice. Yeah. Like everyone from Deadpool to Psylocke to Wolverine to Phantom X, everybody has their own personality. Everybody has their motivation. It's a great series.
Agreed. Hard agree. I'm looking forward to seeing what this deal means in terms of new stuff, of collected things. But regardless, shout out to Rick Remender and Image. I think I'm gonna take a page from Chris's book. I'm gonna put this out into the universe. I'm going to have Rick Remender on the show at some point. I was going to say before the year is over, but I definitely want... I think it would be a really cool opportunity to talk to Rick Remender and just pick his brain. He's someone
That's a Hall of Fame guest.
Yeah, right, exactly. He's someone that I think until right now, I didn't really realize how connected he has been to like my comic journey and just like life in general. Like when I think of like, you know, meeting Drew and Walt for the first time or starting this show, like, you know, Black Science was there, you know, damn, I'm drawing a blank. But like Black Science, yeah, Tokyo Ghost was there. Deadly Class had just started. You know what I'm saying? Like he's been a part of my comic journey for years now, and it's cool.
He's part of our class, Botter. Like our class of, when we started getting in the medium, it's people like Brian Michael Bendis, Rick Remender, Matt Kent. I'm trying to think of someone off the other and Mark Millar, I guess, I don't necessarily agree with everything that Mark Millar thinks or says, but he's part of that class of creator that they were in the zeitgeist. They were making the biggest comics at the time. And if you weren't reading Ultimate Spider-Man or Venom, for instance, like like by Remender, then you weren't paying attention to mainstream comics at the time.
Agreed. So I'm putting that out there in the universe. Remender, come on the show, man. Let's talk.
Rick, we know you're listening. Come on to the show.
Well, I'm gonna see him at New York Comic Con. I'm just gonna stalk him. All right, come on the show. All right, that was. I think as far as headlines and news go, I think we've covered a healthy amount. I want to get into our next segment and talk new comics. But this goes out to the listeners. If you feel like we missed something glaring, and in true Shortbox fashion, what's gonna happen is this episode is gonna come out, and some big piece of news is going to happen the same day, and we're going to look crazy because it's like I didn't talk about I didn't talk about Hickman joining DC or something like that.
Right.
So with that being
So
said,
you need to stop saying we are live at the beginning of the podcast.
You're right.
We're not live.
You're right.
Live to tape.
Ed, don't.
We're
don't
live to tape.
Don't break the illusion.
All right. Oh,
But we are live to tape.
Behind
Cut
the
this out.
scenes, Inside baseball.
this is how the sausage is made, kids.
But if we missed something glaring, or if you've got like a topic or a headline that you want to get our opinion on, I invite you to email us or send us a DM on Twitter or Instagram. All right, if you want to get our opinion or you want to share a headline that maybe we should have talked about, let us know. Be a part of the conversation. But with that out the way, let's go into our next segment and talk about all of the glorious, great new comic books that are hitting shop next month. This will be our first fistful of comics in the brand new season. So we got to bring in the intro music, which is over here.
You can either have a mouthful of tea or a fistful of comics.
Fistful of Comics is a segment dedicated to helping all you comic-curious newbies and loyal Wednesday warriors take your comic shopping experience to the limit by helping you find the best new comics and starting points that you simply can't afford to miss. And since we work smarter, not harder here on the Short Box, we call on the assistance of a man that takes pride in living life to the limit, and that includes comic books. I'm talking about Ben Kingsbury, the owner of Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville's premier comic shop. Ben has kind of done all the hard work for us, all right? He's compiled this week's list of top 3 new and worthy comics that are worthy of any fan's time and attention. So whether you are a diehard comic reader, you got a pull list, or maybe you're someone new, maybe you're looking to get into the world of comic books, this list is a great place to start. I've got previews for each title that we'll be talking about and sharing listed in the show notes in case you want to look at any of the previews or just follow along with the segment. Check the show notes. Let's go and get some music going and see what he's got for us today. Now, gents, I'm going to go ahead and admit, Ben seemed very excited about, getting back on the show, submitting the first Fistful of Comics list for the new season. So he's a little giddy, too, all right? I think it's, the Friday energy also got to him, and Ben's just a naturally energetic, happy guy. So he was very happy to put this list together. His first pick comes from AWA. So kind of, we just got off of celebrating creator-owned books. I think AWA is also in that same kind of sphere as well. So here's his first pick.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, Shortbox listener. I'm Ben K, representing the home of the adventures of Alexander Hamster, Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville, Florida. We're about to take it to the limit. Let's do this. First up, AWA Studios. All right, the writer's strike is over. All these AWA Studios comics you should be collecting. Keys alert. They're all going to be movies. They're all going to be TV shows. You know that's how this works. And I don't know if you know this, but sex sells in business. And Red Light, #1 of a 4-part series, seems like it's going to be no different. Sarah Cho wrote it. If you've read Chariot, if you read Hit Me from AWA, Chariot's amazing, like a modern Knight Rider. Anyway, back to Red Light, futuristic AI, sex workers, murder, mystery, intrigue. Oh yeah, and sex sells, some badass covers. AWA Studios Red Light #1. Check it out.
Whew, come on, he started off a little spicy. All right, I'm looking at the previews for this one right now, and it's a sexy cover. It's a sexy cover. All right, so
Can I tell you guys, this is maybe one of the most unsurprising things. So I saw Red Light. I looked at, of course we're talking about it here. I'm looking it up, and the writer is brand new writer Sarah Cho. I don't know if that strikes a chord with either one of you gentlemen, but that's the wife of Frank Cho. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Who is probably the horniest comic creator in comics.
I love Frank Cho.
Yeah.
We're about to find out he gets it from his wife. That's what we're about to find out.
His wife approves
Oh yeah,
of
yeah.
his horniness.
You know, I saw the last name and I don't want to assume, but I was like, I wonder if she's related to Frank Cho.
Yeah.
But
All shows are related.
You know,
I don't say it, everybody.
Edmund Danzart said that. All right, all right.
I'm
Taiwanese
half
American.
Asian.
All right?
I can speak for the
Thank you, Ed.
shows.
Yes, thank you. All right. Once again, that was Red Light. Issue 1 is coming out through AWA. It's a 4-issue limited series. This book comes out on November 1st. All right. Let's move on to his next pick, which he goes a little mainstream. We mentioned DC Comics this episode, and a little spoiler warning. It's a DC comic book. You might have heard of it.
Next up, DC Comics presents Batman 139. Now, why would I say Batman 139? Well, let me tell you one of the cool things about owning a comic shop that's only a handful of years old. We still get so many new comic readers. And for the first time walking in here, these modern comics can seem like a different language. Do I start there? Look at that, Spidey. What about Sensational? Help. Where do I start? Batman 139, perfect place to start. It's still Chip Zdarsky writing it. He's writing Gotham War right now, which is fantastic. However, this is a brand new story arc. Batman, Joker, more brutal than ever. Mind Bomb begins here. Oh yeah, and cover H, bat symbol foil variant. That's all I'm going to say. You better get one pre-FOC. Come to the limit. We'll hook you up. Batman 139.
Wow.
Dude, I love that Ben will remind you.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's like, Ben, you know, like folks from like, you know, New York, Canada listen to the show. He's like, nah, get their asses to the limit so I can hook them up. That is how passionate Ben is about selling comics.
They can email. They can contact him.
You know what?
Yeah.
Ben is the type that I've seen it. He will mail your comics. If you want to set up a pull list at Gotham City Limit, he will absolutely honor the discount and mail out the comics. I love it for that. All right, but Batman number 139 comes out November 7th. It looks like, much to his point, it is a 40-page comic book. It says new story arc begins. And I feel like that is one thing I'm noticing a lot of Chip Zdarsky's Batman run. There's like multiple jumping on points. So I do like that they're, advertising to, jumping on points for new
We're trying to get this Batman guy popular.
Are you guys fed up with this Batman run with Chip Zdarsky at all?
No, man, and that is, I do feel foolish for not being on this, and because I love Chip Zdarsky, and Jorge Jimenez is one of my favorite artists in comics now. It's just that I'm also reading I feel like 2 other Zdarsky books, and I'm like, how many books is this dude doing? He's doing like New Burn. He's got like another Image one.
Public Domain.
Public Domain. Matter of fact, there was one at the shop this week that I have never heard of, and I can't recall the name of it. I'll find it here, but it's like, how many books is he writing? And they're all, and Zdarsky is someone that's pretty quality. You can go into a Zdarsky book and you're like, this is going to be pretty quality. Are you reading Batman, Chris?
I am. I'm not up to issue 139, but I read all the failsafe stuff, and I read up to the issue that I think a lot of people were really, craving and talking about for a long time. It was, I'm trying to see here really quickly. I think it's issue 131, which was the, I don't want to spoil it for you guys. People at home, if you're listening right now on your radio or in your headset, check out Batman 131. You can read it by itself. It's the end of the failsafe run, and it is insane. There's a little, in a world where we're very oversaturated with multiverse stuff, we get a really cool multiverse moment with Batman that I think not only is a cool moment within itself, but it also sets up this next arc with Batman and Chip Zdarsky writing it with a fan favorite Zur-En-Arrh. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Zur-En-Arrh in the Batman universe, but he's like the Batman Bizarro.
Is he like the Batman with the purple and yellow?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
From the Grant Morrison run, right?
So basically, anytime Batman goes to sleep, and Zur-En-Arrh's whole thing is that he's like an unhinged Batman. Anytime that Bruce Wayne goes to sleep, Zur-En-Arrh comes to life. It's the same person, but it's almost like a personality. Yeah.
All of
Can't even sleep.
all of Batman's intrusive thoughts come out at night.
Oh my god, this guy,
Freaks come out at night.
no rest for this
Yeah.
guy.
All right, and I found the name of the other Chip Zdarsky book from Image. It's called Capterra, Universal Truths.
Oh yeah.
That is the thing about Chip Zdarsky. It's like you'll find books by him that you're like, wait, how many? Like you can go outside right now and lift a random rock up, and you're gonna find an issue of some Chip Zdarsky book that you did not know about. This dude writes
4-issue mini by Chip Zdarsky underneath this rock. And it's funny because he was just the funny guy that drew sex criminals for a long time, and now he's like the top writer in comics, or one of them at least. It's kind of wild.
He went from being Chip to that's Chip MF and Zdarsky. All right.
Yeah, Eisner winning Chip Zdarsky.
And it's cool to see he transcended that. That could have kind of pigeonholed him.
Yeah.
You know, now he's working on Daredevil and Batman. It's wild.
And writing his ass off on Daredevil. Like I'm halfway through that run, and it is like one of the best Daredevil runs I've ever read. It's fantastic
for a character that has often had amazing runs. Both I would say Daredevil here with this, but also Batman, and like both. I would say at the two publishers. The two characters who have gotten some of the greatest concurrent runs over and over and over again are Daredevil and Batman. And Zdarsky, I can't really say for his Batman because he's still very early on in it, but his Daredevil run is a top 5 Daredevil run of all time. I will say that concretely.
Yeah, it's going down in history for sure. All right, let's get back to this list. We got one more from Ben's list, and this one comes from Vault Comics. It is a comic series that I need to go back and revisit, especially with this. All right, let's hear it.
And last but not least, Vault Comics presents Barbaric, Wrong Kind of Righteous, #1. This double-sized one-shot introduces an all-new talking bloodthirsty weapon, Flail.
Oh.
I cannot wait. They've already got a bloodthirsty sword, a bloodthirsty axe. Barbaric is fantastic. Vault Comics has been crushing it. Again, another perfect place to jump on. They've got the trade paperbacks out of the earlier volumes of Barbaric if you'd like to catch up, but great place to start. Barbaric, Wrong Kind of Righteous, #1. Well, I'm still Ben K, representing the home of the adventures of Alexander Hamster. And did I mention all our copies of said Alexander Hamster are signed by both writer and artist? This is Gotham City Limit, Jacksonville, Florida. Remember, with great power comes great responsibility, and always take it to the limit.
Great way to end it.
So we might have to explain.
Yeah, please. You want to explain it?
Alexander Hamster reference. You might not know. I don't know why he didn't mention Jonathan's
I
name.
was like,
so,
man, just deliver the
Jonathan
punchline.
Is a longtime comic book. He's been in the comic book
I think
shop.
it's safe to say at this point, Jonathan is a Jack's comic.
Yeah,
like kind of like I don't know, legend. It might be a little much, but it's definitely an icon. You know, when he's 70 years old, we can call him legend. But for sure, a staple in the comic community.
So he wrote a children's book, which was illustrated by our very own Ashley.
Published
and he's basically
artist Ashley Laney Hoy.
Yes.
Come on.
So basically, he self-published a children's book, which they are selling at the shop.
Yeah.
So that is the Alexander Hamster. He mentioned everything but who did it, and
gotta credit those.
But I wanted to just credit because it's our family is involved in that.
Come on,
so
man. Yeah. And for the record, I'm Ben sometimes thinks 2 steps ahead. He might have been expecting us to do the fill in.
Okay. Like he just threw it up in the air. We got to dunk it.
Yeah, that was a layup. So I appreciate that. Yes, if you are. I'm gonna stop saying if you're just in Jack's, because if you email or reach out to Ben, he will and want to buy one of these Alexander Hamilton books. He will absolutely
Hamilton.
What did I say?
You said Alexander Hamilton. He's in his presidential series.
Imagine the kids book. Yeah. All right. Yes.
Speaking of bad dudes,
Alexander Hamster books, done by Jonathan Sanders, of art by our very own Ashley Laney Hoy. Either hit up Ben at Gotham City Limit or shoot me a message and I can help arrange that. But yeah, those children books look fantastic. And his Ben's pick, by the way, Barbaric, Wrong Kind of Righteous, #1, comes out November 15th as well. If you've been reading the Barbaric series, I think this was a series that Ed championed when it first came out a couple years ago. Glad to see that it's still going on and holding strong. All right, gents.
Yeah, I want to echo that. Sorry, I want to echo that really quickly. That Vault has been doing some really interesting stuff here recently. Like Barbaric, of course, is maybe one of the obvious answers, but they also did The Plot recently, which was a horror anthology, which was really good. Obviously, Donny Cates did his Inceptor run through Vault at one point. There's just like I'm looking through. What's the other one? That Vagrant Queen. I think I haven't read that, but I've heard it's very good.
Yeah.
So I really like what Vault's doing.
That was one of his picks too.
Oh yeah,
Ben's picks. Yeah.
Oh really? Was it? Okay. Yeah. So Vault, keep an eye out for them. I think they're doing a lot of really interesting stuff.
The Blue Flame came out through Vault. It was written by Cantwell, and that was one I championed. Vault is probably one of my favorite publishers like out right now. They've been killing it. But gents, I want to hear from both of you. Out of the three options we got, Red Light number 1, Batman 139, and Barbaric Wrong Kind of Righteous. Which one piqued your interest? Which one is would get put on your poll list? Chris, let's go to you. Which one?
I mean, Batman is an easy answer. That's a layup. And again, like we've already said, Chip Zdarsky's killing it from every angle. So I'm not going to say that. I've been lonely lately, so I'm going to say Red Light number 1. I feel like that. No. I genuinely.
A man's got needs, baby.
I like the spice.
Gonna feel the warm embrace of a comic book.
I like it.
It seems interesting. I feel like sexualized comics. Sexualized is not the correct term. Comics or media about sex can often be stereotyped as for lonely nerds in their mom's basement. But I think this, especially written by an all-female creative team, I think is really interesting. And I think this being Sarah Cho's first outing, let's see what she's got. Yeah. I'm curious. And AWA, like you said, is
comic book nepotism works.
Right, exactly. Who's your husband again? No. And also, I should have said Frank Cho had a cover for both Batman and this series as well. So cool. There you go. But no, it looks interesting. And again, AWA, I think it was Ben that said that this would be eventually created, or at least going to be optioned for some kind of television series, or movie or whatever. So I'd be willing. Like Shot in the Dark, we've already said Vault puts out quality stuff. Batman is Batman. I think just based on my own curiosity, I would pick Red Light as the one that I would add to my pool.
All right, no, I like the justification, and I think a good phrase for what you were trying to say. Sex positive comics. I think that's a good phrase for it. Yeah.
We don't kink shame here, all right?
No,
we don't yuck anyone's yum.
No, come on. That's what I love about comics. You could write about, it's a medium that could tell any type of story, even the spicy ones.
I'll tell you, the only thing that I don't like is like the Jungle Fever. Have you guys seen those comics at comic stores?
Jungle Fever.
You know what?
Not a good deal.
Yes. When I used to work at a comic shop, we had a
I don't know about this.
Ed, this was like Universal Superhero days. So we had all these books. We used to have
those were in the back though.
No, we had a short box on the floor in the corner that had all those books, and Jungle Fever was among them.
Jungle Fever. I gotta look.
Just ask next time you're at the comic shop, Ed. Ask for the variant cover for Jungle Fever.
I'm like,
see what Ed,
not the Spike Lee movie, not an adaptation of the Spike Lee movie.
No, even though I would probably pay to see that too.
I'm thinking of the Stevie Wonder song right now. Hold on.
All right, Ed, do you want to give us your pick? Which one gets your vote of confidence?
You know what? I thought I was going to be the only pervozoid here, but
Pervos unite.
Yes, thank you. A brother, a true brother.
With our powers combined.
Pervozoids roll out.
Pervodroid. I want to echo that sentiment with you because I'm definitely going to pick up that Barbaric, and I love that series as sporadically as it has come out. But I do like the artist. Her name is escaping me. Hold on, sorry.
Oh, the artist is Priscilla
Petras.
Another Brazilian artist that's killing it.
Oh, so it's going to be awesome inside.
But I do like her work, like Chariot I read, and Hit Me I read, and I believe those were both like an all-female creative team.
Cool.
And Hit Me is another kind of like you said, a sex-positive comic. I'm a huge fan of, like I said, everyone's done it. I'm a big fan of pinup art, and like I said, that has such a historical part of comics, that kind of thing, and having an all female team doing it, that's definitely a cool thing to see. So it can't just be it's another pervert over here, But I like that kind of stuff. I like the spicy stuff. I even like kind of Like I said, I grew heavy metal, man. My dad gave me that stack of heavy metal when I was a kid instead of giving me the Birds and the Bees talk. It's like, here you go, read this. It's ruin your future relationships forever. But yeah, I have to go with this. I have to echo what you said too.
Okay. All right. I guess I'm gonna toe the company line here, and Batman 139 only because it's a new story arc, so now I feel pretty good about like being this late, like being this behind with Batman comics that I could just jump in here and be straight. Even though I'm going to probably take your advice, Chris, and at least read the last story arc. But a big reason why I'm picking this,
it's his first brawl with the Joker too.
Wait, is it?
No, well, I mean that's come on, the Batman Joker.
You got me on that one. I went over my head. But also a big reason too. This is going to be very petty, but speaking about nepotism and synergy. I'm looking at the other available covers for this Batman comic, and there is a cover E that features, it is titled Bane McFarlane Toys Action Figure Cardstock Variant. And it's an action figure of Bane and Batman reproducing the infamous
Kelly Jones.
Yeah, Kelly Jones, Bane breaking Batman's bat. Which I'm like, is this going to be a thing where there's going to be like these McFarlane toys?
Yes.
Yeah.
There is?
Yeah.
They're Jim Ryan?
It was in the last solicitation, DC previews. Almost every cover from October to December has a McFarlane action variant.
I am here for that shameless company synergy.
You remember
there.
that? The brothers at Image? Who's helping who out here?
Man,
come on, man!
It's Ed is essentially that Charlie
Remember
Day
who sits on the throne.
Yeah. Ed is essentially that Charlie Day meme when it comes to Jim Lee. All right, he's got this conspiracy figured out, but
it's not. He had his plan. He's the mastermind.
He's like, Todd, get on board. All right, move all that bullshit aside. Get on board with this. But yeah,
I was gonna say this earlier. I want to quickly say, good men don't lead. Say, I love Jim Lee, but he didn't get to the top on accident.
You're right. All right.
Ask Dan DiDio.
Ed, whoa.
He had to break some kneecaps to get there.
Yeah, I'm going to say Batman 139 gets my vote of confidence.
You'll publish some terrible comics with Frank Miller. Out of my kingdom.
Dan DiDio's just sitting over his Frank Miller Presents chair.
Oh. Okay, with that being said, once again, just a quick little reminder, all of the comic books that Ben has selected this week will be in the show notes, so if you want to take a look for yourself, go in the show notes, check out the previews. They're all fantastic picks. And then if any pique your interest, man, do yourself a favor. Go to your local comic shop. Get these comics on your pull list, or if you want to, shop at one of the best comic shops, not even one of the best comic shop this side of the Mississippi, go ahead and check out GothamCityLimit.com. They got exclusive variants. They got comics for sale on their website. And I'm sure if you wanted to join the Gotham City Limit family, Ben would set you up with a poll and some sort of mailing thing. Don't take my word for it, because the last thing I need is Ben to be like, hey, man, I can't fucking mail comic books out. I run a comic shop.
I've never done
Do you know what flat rate goes for right now? Oh, my God. Can I pull a Cesar really quick and just like fully e-break into something like just completely flip the format and just I know how much Botter loves that. That's why I want to do it.
Let me ask you for a minute I thought you were just gonna do some random voice that no one asked for.
That's not anywhere near as good as Cesar, isn't that?
That would have been a true Cesar.
Autobots, let's roll out. I can't do it like him.
Let me ask you this, Chris. Is it something that you think we should share with the general listeners, or do we save it for Patreon? I'm gonna let you decide.
Okay, yeah, let's tease. I'm gonna tease everyone.
Man.
Listen right now. I have a very special recommendation, but head over to patreon.com/the Shortbox Podcast.
Cue dramatic
the
music.
URL, the Shortbox.
Bum bum bum.
Dun, dun.
If you want to hear my recommendation for the Fistful of Comics segment, head on over to
all right, I like
Patreon.
that. This is why we got Chris. Chris knows how it's done. All right, he's got his own successful podcast. He knows sometimes you just you just know how it goes sometimes. Yeah. All right, but I will say, jokes aside, check out Ben's picks if any of those pique your interest. And honestly, that is the end of our show this week, Shortbox Nation. In recap, we got to talk about some of the larger headlines and developments in the comic industry from this past month. It's a fresh new month. Who knows what type of news and headlines will come out of New York Comic Con or just, in general. But we gave you some of the bigger things that happened this past month. So you're caught up as well. And then we wrapped it up with 3 very worthwhile recommendations for new comic books and good starting points. So what more could you ask for? You got an hour plus for free. I'd say that's a pretty good deal right there, right? A pretty full episode for you. If you want more, if this wasn't enough, if you're like, yo, I really want to hear what Chris has got to say, then join us over on our Patreon, right? We're going to stay on the mics for a little longer. We're going to record a quick little bonus episode for our patrons and diehard supporters. We'll do champion season. We'll nerd out a little, and we'll just catch up on what we're reading and watching. So if you want to hear that conversation, or if you want extra perks like early access, maybe you don't want to wait until Wednesday to get, short box content, or you want invites to our live streams and other rad perks that we give our patrons, head over to patreon.com/theshortbox. I promise you it's absolutely worth it. And it would mean a lot to us it would mean a lot to us to have your continued support so we can keep the lights on and continue doing this awesome show. Besides that, I will bid all of you listening adieu. I'll bid you farewell until next week. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this. I'm going to go ahead and let this really dope song that Matt Vigo, a.k.a. Deathstroke, sent to me this week. He's actually working on our new intro music.
What?
Every season we got to come in with a new intro song. So he's working on that. Nice. But he did give me this really dope instrumental to play to close out this episode. Come back next week. I got an interview. I got actually like 2 interviews kind of in the bank. I don't know which one I'm going to drop first. I'll leave it as a surprise for everyone. You have to come back next Wednesday to this feed to check that out. In the meantime,
Bill Willingham.
Oh, the ghost of Bill Willingham.
It's an hour of Bill Willingham explaining IP laws to me. Right?
He's talking about space Jews and all lives matter.
No.
Tune in next week.
Yeah, you won't want to miss it. Riveting stuff. In the meantime, thank you so much for listening. Thank you, all of you, for your support. Take care of yourselves. I really mean that. Go read your comic books. I mean that as well. And continue to make mine and your short box. We'll catch you next week. Oh, one more thing before I say peace. Make sure you check out Chris. All right, Chris and Aaron over at the Oblivion Bar podcast. I'm going to have links for their show in the show. I didn't say that because Chris has been on like 3 times now. You already know where to find them, all right? Oblivion Bar podcast. Check them out. Besides that, we'll catch you next week. Peace.